Hi, this is Jeannie at Trendy Tree, and today I'm going to show you how I made this patriotic lantern topper. Now, I have to warn you, I created this entire video and I did not have a microphone plugged in. So rather than just discard it, I'm going to go back and just do a talk over, and hopefully you can follow along. I apologize, I'm sorry, it just made me sick when I realized what I had done, but I don't have enough materials to recreate it, and I certainly don't want to take it apart. So just bear with me and I'll do my best to tell you what I'm doing. Just don't pay any attention to my lips moving on the screen. I love decorating with a lantern because it just gives you an opportunity to put a small spot of decoration in a room. Now, when our grandkids were smaller, I would go all out for decorating, especially for Easter, or Valentine or anything like that. But now it's just us, so I've cut way back on my decorations, except at Christmas time. So anyway, so I'm going to do my lantern with the patriotic decoration. And of course, right now, a lot of people are doing patriotic creations, door wreaths, door hangers, floral arrangements. It's just with this difficult time that we're all experiencing, a patriotic piece is just something really good to work on. So I made a patriotic cross last week, and I had a few pieces of some of the sprays left over, so I'm going to be using those and then adding in a few more. Now, my lantern that I'm using came from Trendy Tree, but it's some lanterns that we sold a few years ago. We don't have those anymore, but I could give you a link. I think it's still available on Amazon. But the reason I like this lantern is because it has so much glass in it, and you can see whatever you put inside, really well. So it's one of my favorite things to use. This outdoor ribbon is a 2.5-inch ribbon, and I'll give you the SKU number for that. I'm just going to use that because that's what I had on hand. It's just a regular outdoor ribbon. And then I also have a ribbon that's already sold out, and Carrie will get on to me for using this, but it's a red ribbon that has God Bless America on the front. I used this in that patriotic cross the other day, and it sold out. But now we have a couple of other styles. One style, if it's still on the website now, is a red and a white stripe with the God Bless America, and then we have a red and white check with God Bless America coming in. So we will have something that you could substitute with. I'm going to be using a piece of grapevine as a base for the topper. You can buy this sometimes in a roll. We don't have it for sale on Trendy Tree. Or you can take just a regular grapevine wreath and tear it apart. I just took a clump and kind of put it together with a zip tie. And that's going to be my base. I'm going to add my floral pieces into that and then secure that to the topper. I'm going to start out with this is a penta blossom bush. Now this is a leftover, this is not a complete bush, it's a leftover bush from that patriotic wreath the other day, so it has a couple of limbs already snipped out of it, but I'm going to finish using that on my project today. The next thing is this that's a red geranium bush, and again, I used 2 blossoms, I think, out of it the other day for the patriotic cross, so I'm going to use probably the rest of that. That's a white hydrangea bush. That's a white gypsum. It's kind of a cream color. It's not a pure white, but it's a nice filler bush with some light colored little blooms, so I'll be using some of that. And I'll give you the numbers to all these things. You'll see those on the screen, and they'll also be in the written blog post. I have another bundle of greenery there with a variegated leaf, and I did not use any of that, so I'll save that for my next project. The red poppies, I love those. Those are left over from my Christmas tree. They're on long stems, and each stem has like 2 blossoms and a bud, and they're just really natural looking, and I'm going to use 2 of those. They'll be the first thing that I start with when I start building the topper. I'll be using hot glue today, and this is my 8-inch hot glue skillet. It's just a little small electric skillet. It's one that I got off of Amazon. It's a really great size for projects like this, and I'll give you a link to that. Now, we use Gorilla Glue sticks, and I usually just warm that glue up. You want your glue warm enough, thin enough that you can work with it, but you don't want it to be smoking. So I'll plug that in and I'll be using that. Of course, electric skillets are on a very, very short cord, so you have to be really careful that you don't pull them off. Now, the first thing that I'm doing there is kind of getting an idea of how I want my topper to be positioned on the top of the lantern. And you can like put your decoration right on top. You can make it, same on both sides. But I wanted to put mine where it's kind of shorter on one side and longer on the other. You could do that any way that you want to. And that grapevine, you can kind of, bend it and shape it. It's not wired or anything, but you can kind of break some of that curve out of it if you want to. The poppy stems are very long, so I'm not going to cut any of the length off the poppy stems just yet. I probably will need to, but that's going to be the thing that I'm going to start with first because it's my biggest pieces. So I'm going to position it to where it's shorter on one side and longer on the other. And then I'm going to secure those long poppy stems with zip ties. I put one of the poppy sprays on one end and just put the other one right opposite. And the area that I'm holding in my hand is about where I'm going to attach my bow when I'm done. And you just kind of get a feel of where you want to put those. And like I say, I'm using some zip ties to secure that. Now, I'm going to use hot glue, but for these big pieces to start off with, I use just a large zip tie, a couple of zip ties. Of course, you wouldn't have to use zip ties. You could use some floral wire anyway, just to secure those pieces. I'm sorry, y'all, this is so awkward. I hate that I messed this video up, but I'm sorry. But now you can kind of get an idea, well, how that's going to hang. Cut the ends of those zip ties off with wire cutters. Don't use your scissors. I think I used 2 zip ties to secure that bundle. And those long stems, I have some heavy duty wire cutters. Now we have bush cutters at the store, and that's what I would use if I was at the store. But I'm working from home right now, and the wire cutters that I have, even though they're heavy duty, that stem is too large for me to cut, and I'll get my husband to do that. But by the time I got this finished, I didn't even get him to cut those ends off. I just kind of bent them down and covered them up. Well, that's what they look like secured, and that's not the bow that I'm going to use, but that just kind of gives you an idea of where I've secured and where I'm holding with my hand is about where the bow is going to go when I'm finished. So the next thing I'm going to do is take some floral wire and attach that piece, go ahead and attach it to the lantern and finish building the topper while it's attached to the lantern. The next piece that I'm going to start with is the blue pentablossoms because they're longer, and I want those to kind of trail down the sides of the lantern. So I'm going to just go ahead and snip those limbs apart. And again, I'll give you the SKU numbers for the pieces that I'm using. And this was not a full bush. I used some of this bush the other day in the Patriotic cross. So I'm just snipping those pieces apart. Some of them I'll use as short pieces, but some of them I want to keep the pieces long. Had to take my necklace off. It was getting in the way. Sorry, y'all. So I'm just kind of putting things in place there just to kind of get an idea of how I want to start layering the flowers. I had in mind to use the blue flowers next and to use the longer pieces and then save the shorter pieces to go, more when I'm finishing. So that's just, I'm not using any hot glue there. I'm just kind of getting an idea of placement. I'm taking some paddle wire. This is just green paddle wire. It comes in very handy when you're working with florals, and just cutting a piece of that with a wire cutters. And I'm going to secure the topper that I have created so far to the lantern. Now, you can wait, you can work with it on your tabletop, or you can go ahead and put it on your lantern to work with it. I think for what I want to do today that I can finish the work easier if I could go ahead and put it on my lantern. So I'm just securing that wire around the top of the lantern. Well, this video will be a little shorter than the original because some of it I can't remember what I was saying. So anyway, so I'm taking the blue pieces and I'm kind of picking out what's the longest pieces because I want those to kind of hang down on the side. And again, I'm not using any hot glue yet. I'm just kind of doing a little test there. So, okay, so now I'm using my hot glue. I'm sorry. And this is so awkward, y'all. I hate this so bad. And I always do a mic test. I don't know what I was thinking today. But I'm just hot gluing in some pieces there and just using a liberal amount of hot glue and not using any steel picks or anything like that. I'm just sticking it right into that grapevine branch and using that. I'm just gluing in flowers here, so I'm going to speed this up a little bit so you can just, see the overall look of that. I don't know what I was saying, so you're not missing anything. I'm just going to let this video run at a fast speed until I get to the part where I make the bow. So y'all just bear with me. Again, I apologize for messing this video up. I'm adding in some of the white hydrangeas here. I'm not sure if I used all of that bush or not, but I used several of the white blossoms just to add in, some bright color, of course. And again, I'm just going to let you watch this in peace and quiet. this is some of the red geranium bush. I like the leaves on this bush. They're just a little, they have some lighter and darker green about them, which just adds a little different texture. The other geranium, the white geranium bush, is a different company, so the leaves look a little different. So all that just adds a little more interest, I think. So I'm using some of the blooms there. I used the rest of the red geranium blooms. Of course, that was not a whole bush. I had used a piece, a couple of blooms on that Patriotic cross. So, but there was still plenty left for this project for sure. Looks kind of sparse right now, but you know, as I go, I'll fill in, you know, with some filler greenery and the gypsum, which will add, you know, fill up some gaps and that kind of thing. So I'm just breaking that bush apart. You can use your wire cutters, and some of those limbs will just, you can separate with just your hands, but they're all wired, so you can put them in there and shape them any way that you want to. The next thing I wanted to do is make the bow. Now, it's not going to take a large bow, but I wanted to make a bow with about 4 loops, and that red outdoor velvet ribbon is 2.5 inches. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure the length of tails, and I think I did about 20 inches. And I'm going to make about a 12-inch bow. There's 6-inch loops, so I need 4 6-inch loops. So this is a little trick that I've started doing to make my hand-tied bows a little easier. And I'm also showing you here that sometimes this is a roll of 50-yard ribbon, and sometimes when you get a roll like that, you'll get ribbon that's pieced together, and that's close to the end, so that's why I cut that off and just discarded it. So I'm making that tail about 20 inches, and I'm taking a piece of chalk, and I'm making a mark on the back side of the ribbon at 20 inches. And then my loops are going to be 6 inches, so I need 12 inches to make a 6-inch loop, so I'm putting a mark at 12 inches. I'm making 4 loops, so I put 4 marks, 12 inches. And then after I've placed 4 marks for my 12-inch loops, I place a mark at 20 inches for that last tail. The hardest thing for me making a hand-tied bow is keeping the loops straight. So I've got my ribbon marked, and ready to start with that first tail. Well, I'm still marking ribbon, looks like. Sorry. Okay, so now I've made that last mark. That was my 20-inch tail, and I just cut my ribbon free. And you're going to use some wire. You can use a chenille stem floral wire. I just cut a piece of paddle wire about 24 inches. I just cut it with wire cutters and fold it in half just to get it ready. You can use a chenille stem just as easy. Oh, the God Bless America ribbon, I'm going to cut a piece of that, and the wording on the God Bless America, I'm going to cut, you know, a piece off so I don't cut the wording right in the middle. So there's about a 12-inch space in between the script, so that's where I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to use a third tail for my bow where you can read the God Bless America. I love that ribbon. I wish we may be able to get some more of it. We are out right now, but we have the 2 other versions that are, one is on the website now. It's a red and white stripe with God Bless America, and then we have a red and white gingham check coming. It should be in probably this week. But now you just take your ribbon and find that first mark, that 20-inch mark. That's your first tail. Just pinch that up and hold it in your hand. And then make a loop from the top, find your next 12-inch mark, and put your pieces together right where the chalk marks are. So that gives you a 6-inch loop. Then bring a loop up from the bottom at your chalk mark. You want to keep your chalk marks all in the same place. I'm holding that between my thumb and forefinger. You can always pull your loops up like that with your fingers and kind of check them to make sure that they're staying about the same size. And then do another loop from the top. And another loop from the bottom. Of course, this is wired ribbon. It's just so much easier to work with wired ribbon when you're trying to make a bow. That's all we sell is wired ribbon. Okay, so now you've got your second tail. Just make sure your tails are coming to the front, or the right side is up. And now you're ready to put your wire to secure your bow. Just put the wire right across where your fingers are holding the ribbon. Bring it around to the back and twist it. And after you've got a couple of twists in it, sometimes I'll just hold the wire and twist the bow. You can get it a little tighter that way. And then you can use the wire to secure to your lantern. Just fluff out your loops. Of course, you can always trim the tails off, when you're finished if you want them a little shorter. It's better to get them a little too long to start with, and that way you can trim them. So I'm going to take the piece of the God Bless America and just pinch it up. You want to make sure you have the right side showing, but pinch it up and put it to the back of the bow. And you're going to attach it with that same wire. I love that outdoor ribbon. I've used that ribbon for the last couple of years for wreath bows on the outside of our house. And I'm just amazed at how well it has held up throughout so much rain. In fact, the bows that I used this past Christmas were made year before last. And I got them, and they were stored in the attic. And we're not supposed to store anything in the attic. But I stored them in the attic on my wreaths and just brought them back out and refluffed them and used them again this past year, and they held up very well. Now, that little end that I'm showing you there is where it's the end of the God Bless America ribbon, and I'm just going to take just a little dab of hot glue just to fold that over out of the way so that it doesn't stick up. I'm just using one of the extra stems just to put a little dot of hot glue there and just fold that end over so it doesn't stick up. Hot glue can fix a lot of things, y'all. You just have to be careful, don't burn yourself. So now you're ready to just secure the bow to the grapevine. I just took the wires and just kind of went under the grapevine and secured the bow to the grapevine swag. Now once you get your bow secured, be sure and trim off the ends with your wire cutters. Don't use your scissors, use wire cutters. Just fluff your bow out, and we'll finish off the ends of those ribbons later. But that gives you an idea. I love that God Bless America ribbon. So I'm going to speed the video up now and just let you watch in silence while I put the rest of the flowers in. adding in just some of the extra geranium leaves. You know, anytime that you're cutting up your pieces, your sprays or bushes, don't throw anything away because extra leaves come in handy. They're very good for filling in gaps, covering up styrofoam, or just, you know, tucking in here and there where you need a little extra fullness. So I'm using just some leftover leaves there. And using some of the shorter pieces of the flowers around the top and around the bow. Well, there's our lantern topper after I finished it. All I'm doing now is just trimming off the tails. I'm going to do a dovetail cut, so you just fold the ribbon lengthwise and then cut across the fold, and that gives you like a dovetail or fish mouth cut. You can always, you know, finish off your ribbons with the just an angled cut, or if the ribbon is pretty on the back side, like this is just has a right and a wrong side, but if your back side of your ribbon is pretty, you can always kind of just curl up the edges too, and just roll them up. So just kind of fluff your ribbons out, go back, check all your get your glue strings off, and of course all the flowers are wired so you can move them around if you need to, and that's it. Thank you again for watching, and I just apologize so much for messing up the audio on this video. I hope it's not been too distracting for you. I hope you'll visit us at Trendy Tree and shop for wreath supplies and arrangements. We've got all kinds of mesh, ribbons, and wreath forms, and all kinds of flowers. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Thank you again for watching, and I just apologize so much for messing up the audio on this video. I hope it's not been too distracting for you. I hope you'll visit us at Trendy Tree and shop for wreath supplies and arrangements. We've got all kinds of mesh, ribbons, and wreath forms, and all kinds of flowers. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.